welcoming you this evening to our Revolution California call. We'll get started in just a few minutes, but in the meantime, while we wait for the call to build, if you are on Zoom or social media, please type your name and where you're from in the chat, what group you're with, if you are a member of the group. And if you're calling on the phone, go ahead and press *3 and an operator will take your information and let us know where you're calling from. And if you have any specific questions for any of our panelists this evening, or me, if you're wondering anything. But yes, I'm seeing some folks hopping in. Welcome, folks. If you could in the chat, just go ahead and drop in your name and where you're from. And if you're a member of a local Our Revolution group, would love to shout out our active members. And if you are not a member of Our Revolution National yet, you should become a member. We'll talk a little bit about that here. Judy Jackson over across the bay from me in Berkeley. Nice to see you. Hi, Maria LaPlace from San Francisco. Nice to see another San Franciscan. Hi, Kate from Oakland. Oh, is that Kate Tanaka? Hi, Kate. Hope you're doing well. Margaret Smith from Berkeley. Love it. Mary, hi, in California. Beautiful. Donald Moore in Long Beach. Hope you're hanging out with our friend Ben, who we'll be talking about a little bit later tonight. I think I'm getting our Revolution call right now. Nice. Ina Silva. Oh, hi, Ina. How are you? So nice to see you. Hello, Harry from Richmond. Love it. A lot of Bay Area folks here tonight. Robin from Ukiah, California, and a member of and our National Nurses United and Our Revolution. Love it. David, are you all the way from Korea right now? Nice to have you calling in. Scotts Valley, nice, Ben. I'm from Hollister, not too far from there, and we have some Santa Cruzians joining us on this group tonight. So love to hear that. And folks, yeah, some of the newer folks who are just joining in, I think if you would love to put in your name and where you're from, I would love to shout you out. And if you're a member of a local group, would love to shout out your group as well. I think we have a lot of leaders here. Hi, Tom from Santa Rosa. Nice to see you. Glenn, we know you're here, but nice to see you anyways. I don't know what Bernie is. What else we got? Oh, and I'm Brandon, San Francisco, California. Love to see this. Ooh, hi, Tom from Our Revolution East Bay. Ooh, East Bay is showing up today. Love all this energy coming from over there. It was a warm day out there, I think. Folks, and our folks who are joining on the phone, you can press *3 to hand over give your information. And if you are joining us via Zoom or Facebook Live or Twitter Live, go ahead and put in your information in the chat so we can shout you out. What is up, East Bay? I got Dave from Orange County. Nice to see you. Or Orange, California. Sorry, I don't know if that's in Orange County. Anything south of like Fresno, I'm completely oblivious of. Who else is here? Hi, Mary from Laguna Beach. Love to see some Orange County PDA up in here. Gotta love our friends at the Progressive Democrats of America. And Wade, hi Wade, hope you're doing well. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining in from Palmdale, Wade. I hope everything is doing well for you all down there. And I think Wade, you're an Our Revolution group leader too, if I remember correctly. Felipe, welcome. DSA and from the Inland Empire. Nice. We love our Democratic Socialists of America. I'm a proud member myself of DSASF. And then Lynn joining from Menlo Park. Nice to see you, Lynn. And yeah, R-Rev, Antelope Valley. Thank you, Wade, for clarifying that. So if you're in Antelope Valley, you should connect with Wade, who can connect you with the local group so you can get organized in your area. Mike, do you feel like we're ready to begin, or do you want me to?
No, I think we're ready to roll.
All right, I'll bring the energy down a little bit and hand this over to Mike. All on you, Mike.
Well, actually, I'm going to hand it over to our co-host tonight.
All right.
Janani.
Yes. All right. Hi, everybody. Good evening and welcome to our California statewide call. I'm Shawnee Badger. I lead Our Revolution Santa Clarita Valley here in beautiful Southern California. I'm so excited to be here with our progressive family across California. And thank you so much for joining our call tonight. We have about 300 people who RSVP'd for Zoom, and we have a couple thousand people joining on the phone through our tele town hall platform. So really, really exciting and lots of energy tonight. We have a great lineup of speakers tonight, including Congressman Ro Khanna, San Francisco District Attorney Chesa Boudin, and CDP Progressive Caucus Chair Amar Shergill. Now let's go to San Francisco and hear from our co-host, Brandy Markman.
Thanks so much, Shani. My name is Brandy Markman, and I am co-chair of the San Francisco Bernie-crats. I have the good fortune of having Brandon Haraman in my club and as my neighbor as well. It is so awesome when the whole Our Revolution family gathers together. We host these meetings almost every first Tuesday of the month. Tonight, we're going to hear an amazing public banking update from Trinity Tran from the California Banking Alliance. And finally, as we fight and organize for a truly progressive California, we're going to hear from two candidates with elections happening this month. Aram Ayra, who's running for Riverside City Council in Southern California, and Janani Ramachandran, who's running for State Assembly from Oakland. That special election is being held at the end of the month, and ballots drop this week. So, Shani, before we get going tonight, can you tell us about what's going on with the Our Revolution membership drive?
Absolutely, yes. So Our Revolution is in the midst of its 2021 membership drive. And so throughout the evening, we're going to be asking anyone on the call who isn't yet a member of this great organization to become one. It's super easy. You can join for as little as $5 a month. And all you need to do to sign up is at the link we're dropping in the chat, you'll click on that, or if you're calling in on the phone, you'll just press *3 and an operator will take your information. So the link to sign up is rrev.us/2021 member. So if you're here on Zoom with us, that should be in the chat. But again, rrev.us/2021 member. And now I want to turn it over to Mike Oles, the National Field Director for Our Revolution.
Thanks, Shani, and thanks, Brandy. Hello, everybody. My name is Mike Oles. I'm our National Field Director of Our Revolution. It is so awesome to be with you tonight. And two quick things. One is in the chat room is our membership sign up. If you haven't become a member yet, a card-carrying member, please sign up tonight. There's some amazing work going on in California and across the country, and this is a very critical time for Our Revolution and for the progressive movement. Let's put it all on the line in 2021 because this is our moment. It's going to take a lot of organizing, a lot of hard work this summer, but we can make some major victories as we keep on organizing. And then also, if you want to become part of our statewide committee, we meet every Thursday night, except for the nights we do our statewide call. We want to huddle up as a statewide committee and talk about the work we're doing, do some planning, get to know each other, build our leadership structure. So I'm going to put in the chat room also a link to join our Thursday night conversations every Thursday night, except for the first Thursday nights of the month where we do these calls. So thanks again, everybody. And today I got a text from one of our organizers in Illinois because she saw this on CNN. During the lunch hour, and I thought it was pretty awesome that Our Revolution is making lunch hour news on CNN. Next slide, please. One more slide. And this showed up on CNN today. And it is an email we sent out yesterday, basically calling for Joe Biden to pick up his game. Joe Biden, won the presidency. Pretty handily after he took Bernie Sanders' progressive movement and adapted it to his message. He made progressive promises. He said he was going to expand healthcare. He was going to protect the climate. He was going to fight for 15. We were going to get major union rights. Democrats right now, last time I checked, we control the Senate, we control the House, we control the White House. This is Joe Biden's moment. This is Democrats' moment to pass a progressive agenda. Who knows what'll happen in 2022 with the upcoming midterms, but we know a progressive agenda wins and is popular at the ballot box. We cannot hold back. This is our moment. This summer, we've got to get this through Congress and to the White House. So our critique of Biden made CNN today, and this summer, we are going to be organizing like crazy to make sure we win as much as we can and really make sure corporate Democrats and Republicans don't hold us back. Next slide. And as we go to a much more local level, and we'll hear more about this tonight with Chesa Boudin joining us, there is an attack on progressive prosecutors. Over the last couple of years, progressive prosecutors have won at the ballot box. Larry Krasner was the first quote-unquote progressive prosecutor to really become famous. He won in Philadelphia, which had a very corrupt and broken criminal justice system. He won a tough race 4 years ago. He just had his re-election just 2 weeks ago. The establishment party and the police union came hard after Larry Krasner because of his police reforms. And guess what? He won big time in Philadelphia, beat his own party, beat the police union. And they're coming after Chesa. They're coming after progressive prosecutors across the country. At our Rev, we are deeply committed to making this work. And I'm seeing that Representative Ro Khanna has joined us, and we'll hear from Ro Khanna just here in a few minutes. But next slide. And then as we think about where we're at in Congress, progressives in Congress are fighting hard to make sure that we get our agenda through Congress. As this is Pramila Jayapal, the progressive chair of the Progressive Caucus in Congress. The GOP isn't going to meet us halfway. That's very clear, and progressives are making a major push to make sure that our agenda in Congress does not get stymied. Next slide. And I think Cori Bush says it last. Cori Bush, the freshman congresswoman from St. Louis, who our revolution endorsed. Instead of wasting our energy negotiating against ourselves for an infrastructure package that Republicans clearly have no interest in passing, let's put our energy into abolishing the filibuster and passing the policy we were elected to deliver. And in West Virginia and in Arizona, our revolution is mobilizing and making sure that our people, the grassroots movement, the progressive movement, is organizing as hard as we can in West Virginia and Arizona and across the country to end the filibuster. And we got to move the senators in those two states. And let's just keep on going. We're short on time tonight. Let's go to our final slide here. But we are in the fight in fossil fuel subsidies. You'll hear a lot more about that through our revolution as we go forward. Next slide. And then lastly, again, become a movement builder, join the movement, become $5, $10, $15 a month. It goes a long way in our work. Imagine thousands of people giving $5 or $10 a month. We have staff across the country, and we can keep on organizing and building our grassroots movement. So please become a movement builder, $5, $10, $15 a month, $1 a month. It all adds up to the movement we're building together. And now I'm going to pass it back to Shani and take it away from here.
Thank you so much, Mike. So I'm so excited to introduce our first speaker, wonderful human being, amazing Congressman Ro Khanna, representing California's 17th Congressional District. He's a deputy whip in the Congressional Progressive Caucus and was a Bernie 2020 national co-chair. Among his committee memberships, he's a member of the Oversight and Reform Committee and chairs its Environmental Subcommittee, which has oversight over global climate change, environmental protection, public lands, air and water quality, among other very important and pressing issues. Welcome, Congressman.
Thank you, Shani, for such a terrific introduction, and thank you for all you do in California, for your activism, for your leadership, and all of your support for progressive causes. I wanted to talk briefly about the urgency of eliminating the filibuster. We have really an existential challenge to our democracy. The Republicans are basically responding to President Biden's win and saying we want to disenfranchise Black and brown people from voting. We have a new Jim Crow where they're looking at where the turnout was highest of Democratic voters, of Black voters, of Latino voters, and trying to tailor laws to make it harder for them to vote, lessening the absentee ballot duration, knowing that disproportionately affects African Americans, removing polling places from areas that have large Black and brown populations. So the only way we can address this is to pass the Voting Rights Act. And the barrier to passing the Voting Rights Act, I mean, we're never going to get Republicans, is just the filibuster. Now, if we can have a filibuster exception to put someone on the Supreme Court and a filibuster exception to put the president's cabinet in, we certainly can have a filibuster exception to make sure that every American has an equal right to vote. And the Progressive Caucus is going to be pushing very, very strongly for that. And I appreciate what everyone here is doing to continue to raise that issue and raise the call to do that. We're running out of time, frankly. The second area is this infrastructure bill. I mean, I don't see what the point is in these negotiations. If we pare down, if we aren't willing to raise corporate taxes, even 1%, 2%, I mean, that's absurd. We ought to be raising taxes on the ultra rich. We ought to be raising corporate tax. Anyone who tells me corporations can't afford it, tell them, come visit my district, Silicon Valley. The market cap in Silicon Valley of all the companies, $10 trillion, $10 trillion. Our market cap of companies went up 37% during the pandemic. You have billionaires' wealth, the 800 or 700 some billionaires, their wealth grew by over $1 trillion. We can afford to tax the corporations and the ultra rich who are making out extraordinarily well with digitization because of the pandemic, because of globalization that's been taking place over the last 20 years. We can tax them to make sure that everyone has broadband in this country, to make sure that everyone has water in this country, to make sure that everyone has access to roads and bridges and airports, to make sure that we have childcare, to make sure that people have the opportunity to have elder care. It's going to do nothing to hurt the growth of our economy, but it's going to give everyone who is working class, middle class, a dignified life in an economy that hasn't been working for them. And, I go on all the time. I want to make it very clear for, some people on the call may call themselves socialists. I'm not one. I represent the engine of the greatest wealth generation probably in human history. And I'm telling you something, it will not hurt wealth generation for Americans to all have childcare and healthcare and education. It's $10 trillion, the market cap in my district. These companies, it's unprecedented. They can pay more tax and be fine. I mean, they wouldn't notice if the taxes went up from 21% higher. Where are they going to go? This idea, they're going to go leave the United States. Give me a break. Apple's put $5 billion into Cupertino. I'll tell you, they're not going anywhere. They're staying, as is Google, as are all these companies, as is Amazon. They can pay more tax. And the absurd thing is some of these companies aren't even paying tax. I mean, Amazon, which made $20-some billion of profits, pays barely any tax. I don't even know if they paid any tax because of all the special interest deductions. And we're not going to go after that. One other point that ought to be made is these companies ought to be paying tax, yes, because we need the revenue to pay for education and healthcare and infrastructure, but they ought to be paying tax out of fairness, out of simply democratic accountability. Why is it that everyone on this call pays tax, but some of these corporations don't? So, this has to be a core progressive idea. And then I did, of course, the Stop Cheaters Act, which is about paying tax on people who are currently avoiding the law. This is not about tax avoidance, it's tax evasion. They are basically lying to the IRS. And you know who we're auditing? We're auditing poor Black women in the poorest counties who are getting the EITC, saying that they and their and both the husband and mother are both claiming a kid as a dependent, or a grandparent is claiming a kid as a dependent. I kid you not. Our IRS audits those individuals more than we audit the corporations and the 1%. We need to change that. So let me wrap up because I was told not to go longer, and I'm happy to answer a few questions if there's time. Here is the situation that we're in. We have extraordinary wealth generation in this country and a great divergence. The pandemic has exposed the extraordinary divide that exists in healthcare. By the way, I usually don't share this, but I had I don't want to go into too much detail, but and I'm in perfectly good health, but I had to get some test procedure done because there was some symptoms. Everything turned out normal. I got a letter from my health insurance company just this morning. Your procedure is not covered because everything turned out normal. I was like, well, we didn't know it was normal before the procedure, before the test. That's the whole point of the test. Now, imagine if they could do that to a member of Congress. Imagine if they could do that to a member of Congress, what they're doing to people around this country when it comes to healthcare. And we have a question that we have to answer right now, which is in a crisis of a national pandemic, in a crisis where so many Americans were laid off, where so many Americans are still living paycheck to paycheck, are we going to actually do something to change the fundamental inequalities in this country? Or are we just going to phone it in, try to do some roads and bridges, try to score some, put some points on the boards and score political points and not really make the transformational change that's going to improve people's lives? I'll end with this. You know, people always say, what is Bernie's appeal? Is it to the young people? Is it his charisma? Is it his way he delivers his message? I don't get it. Is it his social media? And I said, I think it's the simplest thing to understand. Bernie Sanders is saying, you know, those student loans you have, you shouldn't have them. You know, all those healthcare costs you have, you shouldn't have them. You should get healthcare and you should get education. And young people particularly, saying, you know what, that would actually improve my life. So that was all that Sanders, he wasn't some genius, a very smart guy. He just was saying, we ought to have healthcare. We ought to have education in this country. And this is our moment to do those basic things. And I certainly will fight for that. The Progressive Caucus will fight for this. And we need all of you to help fighting for this.
Thank you so much for your leadership, Congressman. I wanted to ask, Tim, do we have any questions for Congressman Ro Khanna?
Yes, we do. We have a question from Lionel Maris. Lionel asks for Congressman Ro Khanna regarding the filibuster. Wouldn't future Democrats abuse the system as well if they do away with the filibuster? I understand that a filibuster may impede progress and it's used as a weapon to stop legislation from passing or being considered in the U.S. Senate.
Well, the filibuster, Adam Gentleton has a great book on the filibuster, which is that it's been used largely to block civil rights legislation, largely to block any progress on race issues. And it's been used now to block equal voting rights. And all we need to do is either get rid of it, which is the thing that I support, or at the very least say that you can't use it to block voting rights. How is it that we have reconciliation so you can pass tax cuts without a filibuster, and we allow the president's cabinet to go without a filibuster, and we allow the Brett Kavanaugh to be sitting on the Supreme Court without a filibuster? But when it comes to the voting rights of Black people in this country, of Latinos in this country, of minorities in this country, we're going to say, no, we want voting rights. We want the filibuster. We have to make the case that it either has to go or there needs to be a voting rights exception to it.
Thank you. Tim, was there any more questions or?
Yeah, it looks like we have one more question. It says, in the House, what are key progressive priorities as we head into the summer, the second half of 2021? What can we do to help?
Key priorities is getting a real infrastructure bill that actually is going to have climate change. We want my committee chaired the Environment Committee to say we need to get rid of all the fossil fuel subsidies, the 5 key fossil fuel subsidies. We need massive investment to hit the clean energy standards. We need to have childcare. We need to do the parts about what they say human infrastructure. I just believe it's an investment in basic dignity of people. So what we can't do is cut our sails, cut some deal with the Republicans that is woefully inadequate, and call it a day. So we really need to push for a bold vision on our jobs plan, on our infrastructure plan.
Great. Thank you so much, Congressman. I believe that was the last question, right, Tim?
Yes, looks good.
Great. Perfect. Well, thank you, Congressman, so much. It's always so awesome to have you here with us. And thank you for your leadership. And now let's go back to, actually, no, I'm sorry. I'm going to be introducing amazing Amar Shergill. So excited to have Amar here with us tonight. I am so excited and looking forward to, I can't find his intro, but I'm just going to wing it. So Amar is the chair of the Progressive Caucus, and we had him here with us last month on our last call to talk about the Troublemakers slate, and so excited to hear from you. And let's turn it over to you, Amar.
Well, hello, everyone. You know what? It's just great to be back. And Shani, thank you for the intro. And it's always good to be following Congressman Khanna, who's just been doing a wonderful job helping lead the progressive movement in DC. But, yes, last time we were here, we were talking about the campaign for the officers' positions for the Progressive Caucus in the California Democratic Party. And we had our great team of 10 officers, and I'm happy to say that we were all elected, myself reelected, and our whole team was elected, and we crushed. We had 75 to 95% of the votes for each of the officers, and we did that because of you. We had hundreds of our Revolution voters who leaned in, registered, found the right links, and then voted. It was a bit weird because the process was remote and people were registering until the last minute. But thanks to you, we got it done. So thank you so much for doing that. It was just an old-fashioned organizing task, and we asked you to do it, and you just did. And we have on the call here and there, we have folks that really helped. And it feels like we're on a bit of a campaign call tonight because we have Shani Badger who is endorsing, and Congressman Khanna who endorsed, and Ben Hawk is with us, and Glenn Glazer is here, and he put in a ton of hours making sure the election ran smoothly. And Brandon Harami, of course, is our officer, Bay Area Vice Chair. So thank you all. And we just immediately after the election leaned into accountability. So what we worked on right away is a petition where we had hundreds of members signing on and saying that the California Democratic Party should not once again, for yet another time, over the past decade, all we've had is white men appointing every single person that gets appointed in the California Democratic Party. We say, you know what, that has to be changed. You just can't do that yet again, even though, of course, we've elected another white male to chair the party, Rusty Hicks, again. And you know what? We submitted that petition. Within a few days afterwards, we got a letter out from the party saying they're going to do it different this time around, where each of the officers, and the other 4 officers are diverse, each of the officers will have an equal voice in appointments. So we're not going to just stop at that. We're continuing to lean in because we all know that the devil's in the details, is that they can put, appointments make them diverse and make them progressives in all the positions that don't have power. So we're going to lean in and make sure that doesn't happen. We encourage you to keep connected with the caucus, and I'll put the links in the chat here in a little bit. But keep connected so you can help us. We might have to do more petitions. We might have to, use the bylaws of the party against the party to ensure that some of this work gets done. And coming up, we have the Assembly District 18 Forum, where we have Janani Ramachandran, who you're going to hear from tonight, and also some other candidates. Right now, I am officially neutral. We're waiting for our caucus to go through that, but you can obviously make some assumptions since I'm here. I was endorsed by our revolution. Janani's endorsed by our revolution, and I've yet to find an issue where I don't think she's on the right side of progressive policy. So, a few, I think I got a couple more minutes. One thing I want to touch on that Congressman Khanna mentioned is that the filibuster. And I know we talk about cinema a lot, and we talk about Manchin a lot, but we got a problem right here in California. If you saw the quotes just recently, you know that Senator Feinstein said that she doesn't think that they're going to change the filibuster. She said nobody's ever talked to her, so it's not an issue. And I don't know how she makes that statement, given the fact that she herself and her staff have made multiple statements on the filibuster. She's been asked many times. We've engaged in advocacy, and yet she still rolled out and made just this horrible statement. So expect to hear from us more. We're going to have to lean in on Senator Feinstein, make sure she gets correct. Senator Padilla has been great on that issues and a number of other progressive issues, which is good. And then one final thing, and this is maybe a bit in the weeds, but when it comes to the California Democratic Party, we are going to be organizing as we go forward on endorsements. So the party does not endorse those folks that are obstacles to progressive legislation, progressive values, and everything really that we care about, including the future habitability of the planet. And if we're going to stop those endorsements, yes, if you're a delegate to the party, you understand the process and you're going to have a vote coming up. But one thing that folks maybe goes under the radar is that the California Democratic Party has clubs all over the state. Some of them are our revolution clubs and they're official parts of the party. But find a very progressive club in your area, become a member. Those membership numbers are included when we figure out delegate counts and who gets how many votes. So please lean in, get folks in right now over the next couple of weeks into those Democratic clubs. It really does make a difference. A lot of these times, these endorsements come down to one vote or two. So, we are going to be working on that. We ask you to organize one more time, get in those clubs. And then we are on Twitter. You'll be able to hear about us, and I'll drop the link. But thank you so much one more time for leaning in, electing us, giving us a place in the California Democratic Party where we can make good trouble, hold people accountable. I am really enjoying our rhetoric over the last little bit, being pretty tougher than I think we've ever been on the party, because it's more important than ever and we don't have time to waste. And I'm just sick and tired of not telling the truth about the party. So there's going to be a lot more truth telling and a lot more troublemaking. Thank you all. Solidarity, folks. Muted, I can't hear.
Hey, Timothy, do you have any questions?
Yeah, do we have any questions?
Yeah, it looks like Amar, good to see you again. Question for you. How can we push progressive laws through and stop anti-democratic Republican bills now while we have a chance?
Look, if we're talking about California, I know we often look at our things that we failed to pass, and we've taken a lot of hits recently, whether it's the fracking fossil fuel bill or the corporate money bill or CalCare that we couldn't even get out of committee. So we got a lot of organizing to do, and I encourage everybody to lean into those fights. Connect with Ash Kalra online, connect with the nurses online, with the Progressive Caucus. That CalCare bill is huge, and we need to lean into that. One, because it is a massive decrease in human suffering when we pass it, but also it's a way to flex our muscle, that we aren't going to cower just because we didn't get it passed this time. We're going to lean into that fight. And I think that's got to be one of our top priorities. But also look at what's happened, just over the last couple of days. We have passed some good bills, and we have blocked some really bad bills. One that was going to, start defunding residential solar. So it's not all gloom and doom, but this is just organizing. Connect to your local Our Revolution, donate to Our Revolution, find these great candidates like you're going to hear about tonight, get involved. There is simply no replacement for joining grassroots organizations, getting back out in the field and talking to folks face to face, having the conversations. That's how we're going to change California. That's how Bernie won this state, and we just got to keep on doing that. So thank you for the question. It's probably the most important question.
Awesome. Did we have any further questions?
Looks like we're good.
Awesome. Thank you,
everybody.
So much, Amar. Thank you for your time tonight. We are so lucky to have your leadership here in California, leading our movement in the California Democratic Party. And we can't wait to see what happens next in the state with you and the troublemakers and all of us progressives working together.
Thank you.
Awesome. So I just wanted to do one more membership ask. So remember, if you're not a card-carrying member of our revolution, we are asking you to consider becoming one tonight. You can become a sustaining member for as little as $5 or more a month, and you can sign up at the link in the chat. Or if you're calling in on the phone, you can press *3 and an operator will take your information. So again, the link to sign up is rrev.us/2021 member. And now I wanted to turn it over to Brandy to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you so much. Let's see. So I know Chesa is on his way here. So I am going to introduce our next speaker, Trinity. Let's see, Trinity, are you in the house? Yes. All right. So 1 second, let me just get back in. A window went away on me. Bear with me for a second. Okay. 1 second. All right. Thank you so much. Trinity Tran is a founding member and lead organizer of the California Banking Alliance. Trinity, thank you so much for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the exciting news coming out of Sacramento?
Hi, Brandy. Hi, all. Thank you so much. And I am the lead organizer of Public Bank LA and the California Public Banking Alliance. And thank you for bringing me on to talk about public banking, because there's a lot of exciting movement happening in space. Public banking is a relatively new concept that's really entered the political space just within the last few years. And we are right now seeing some really incredible momentum building. The movement is accelerating right now with some incredible wins on multiple campaigns. And I'm excited to share that just yesterday, our Assembly Bill AB 1177, the California Public Banking Option Act, passed the state assembly. And this bill, like a lot of our work in public banking, was heavily targeted by Wall Street lobby, but it comes down to organizing. And despite the opposition, it really came down to a coordinated strategy with our author, Assemblymember Miguel Santiago, and the statewide California Public Banking Alliance volunteer team, the co-sponsors, SEIU California, Fight for 15, Indivisible California, who all really contributed to the targeted outreach and the political pressure that helped us land this incredible win. So now that we're out of the assembly, the bill will head to the Senate in just a few weeks. And the California Public Banking Alliance, we are really storming Wall Street on two fronts: at the state level with Assembly Bill 1177, and then also at the local and city level. And I'll start with explaining our state level work. With 1177, what this bill would do would provide all Californians with free access to essential banking services. It would create a BankCal account, a program administered by the state that would enable anyone across California to access a debit card, to deposit funds, to automate a bill pay, to set up direct deposit, all without fees or penalties. And why is this important? In California, nearly 1 out of 4 Californians, half of whom are Black and Latino households, are unbanked or underbanked, which means they either don't have access to a bank account or they don't have adequate access, so they have to turn to predatory payday lenders and check cashers for simple banking services, which then gouge them extraordinary fees, or they don't have enough funds to meet minimum account balance, or even despite having accounts, they're hit with maintenance fees and usage fees and penalties. All of this, not having access to banking, causes real harm to working class folks, folks who are low income, who are already struggling to survive. So what AB 1177 would do would be the first program in the country to establish a state level public option banking platform. And this will help bridge the racial equity gap in California, pave the path for Black, brown, immigrant, low income folks who have been excluded from the financial system to be able to access basic banking services. We're fighting for zero cost, zero fee, zero penalty banking account for all Californians across the state, regardless of how much money you have in the bank to be able to open up a bank account and utilize basic banking services. The bill is endorsed by over 200 organizations, over 100 delegates, and we're gearing up for quite a big fight in the Senate. And we're heading into our first committee, the Senate Banking Committee, in just a few weeks. It'll most likely be double, perhaps even triple referred. And we are expecting the banking lobby to try to kill this bill. So we'll need as much support as we can. So after my part, I'll drop in some links to our action letter. Now on the second public banking front, so we've got the state bill with 1177, and then the California Public Banking Alliance is also battling at the local level. So on the second front, we are simultaneously working to establish city and regional public banks that house local government funds and would enable our cities to divest from Wall Street banks. So one bill banks the general public, the other bill banks our city. And many of you may have heard or were part of the campaign that supported our AB 857 bill, and that was the California Public Banking Act bill, which was a groundbreaking bill we wrote and passed as a coalition of grassroots organizers representing 11 cities in California. We wrote and passed this bill, which Newsom signed at the end of 2019, actually just a few months before the pandemic hit. And with what AB 857 did is it created a legal and regulatory pathway for cities and counties in California to be able to form their own banks. And California made history as the first state in the nation to pass a bill legalizing local public banks. Now, with the legal framework in place for public banks in their states, cities and regions from LA, San Francisco, San Diego, East Bay, Central Coast, all of these cities and regions are now moving forward with forming their local public banks. So in brief, a public bank is a financial institution that's owned by a public entity, a local government such as a city, a state, a region. And now with a publicly owned bank, the interest and profit of a public bank belongs to the community. So unlike private commercial banks where the profit goes to CEOs and private shareholders, with a public bank, the profit belongs to the community. So rather than billions of our public funds, which are the interest and fees that our city accrues, rather than that getting siphoned out of our communities by out-of-state private commercial banks, a public bank would allow our cities to recapture the interest that we pay to bondholders and recirculate that money back into our local economy. A public bank can also do what banks do, which allows our cities to borrow at bankers' rates, and it can also leverage funds up to 10 times. What that means is that that's more money for our cities and our counties to be able to build roads, build schools, renewable energy infrastructure, invest in small business loans, especially in historically underserved and marginalized communities, Black and Brown communities that have been shut out of the banking system. It's currently costing California government billions in fees and debt services to borrow money from private commercial banks. In LA, we spend about over $1 billion in debt services. That's what it costs us to borrow money from Wall Street banks. With a public bank, we can save money by being able to fund projects ourselves and reinvest in public funds. And that all goes back into our communities to empower our communities to build, rather than having that money be diverted to big banks, which then use our funds to invest in harmful industries like fossil fuels, weapons manufacturers, private prisons. If you look at the current financial system, it doesn't have a real incentive for better our communities. It's motivated purely by turning a profit, by producing the greatest profit, making money where it can. But with a public bank, we are allocating funds to be able to invest in a future and use our funds to meet our social objectives. This is essentially about mobilizing public revenue to be able to serve public interest, because the one question that always arises anytime we're pushing out a policy proposal is how do we pay for it? And public banking is really a big part of that answer. We see it as the cornerstone of not only the future, of not only the progressive movement of the future, because it enables our cities to pay for the things that we aren't able to be able to finance affordable housing, solutions to homelessness, to build infrastructure that is actually invest in the sustainability and resiliency of our future. It is the critical financial infrastructure that we're missing. And that's why we're seeing all of this traction from city councils across the state of California, even across the nation, moving towards creating municipal, local, city-owned public banks. Across the state, various city councils and county supervisors are moving forward with this. In LA, just a few weeks ago, the LA City Council Economic Development and Jobs Committee just unanimously approved a motion to move forward with hiring a consultant to write the public bank's business plan that will lay out the economic viability of the bank. That's the first step per the AB 857 bill that we passed in 2019. The first step that cities have to take is to create a business plan. So LA is moving forward. SF, San Francisco supervisors just today voted to move forward with the first step to create a municipal public bank. San Diego City and County will soon be announcing legislation for a public bank. East Bay, which includes Oakland, Alameda County, Berkeley, are working towards creating a business plan for a regional public bank, as well as Santa Cruz County supervisors. They're working with Santa Barbara and various coastal cities to form a regional Central Coast public bank. So there is incredible energy building in this space. The movement is really firing on all cylinders because it's an idea whose time has come. And that is why we're seeing elected officials working with activists across the state to transform this idea into reality. The regulations for 857 local public banks, the bill that we passed in 2019, are still actually being finalized by the state regulatory agency, the DFPI. So we expect those regulations to be done by the end of the year, and at which point all of these cities, many of these cities will be armed with their business plan and ready out of the gate, ready to submit an application for a public bank license. And I'll wrap by just saying that, to be able to create a sustainable future for Californians and for all people, we need to be able to take our monetary power back outside of private interests. And we can do that through local control of our public dollars to ensure that something as essential, and also to ensure that something as essential as banking is accessible and free, especially for vulnerable communities. It's time to take our power back and put our monetary power back into the hands of the people where it belongs. We are literally in the midst of a financial revolution that is unfolding and happening in real time. So please join the fight. We've got a call to action, as I mentioned at the start of the call. We just made out of the Assembly, so we're going to be headed to the Senate in just a few weeks in the Senate Banking Committee. So if you can take a moment to sign our Action Network letter and tell your senator to vote aye on AB 1177, and also if you are a California Democratic Party delegate, we have an endorsement form for delegate. It's going to be crucial for you to help dial up the pressure with your senators. And if you're interested in connecting to our movement, we are an entirely volunteer-led, volunteer-powered movement. Join our mailing list at the California Public Banking Alliance .org, or if you're interested in starting a public banking, a local public banking movement, reach out to us at calpba@gmail.com. Thank you all.
All right, Trinity, thank you so much. I'm going to kick it on over to Ben Hock. He is part of Our Revolution Long Beach and Southern California co-chair of the Progressive Caucus, to set up a Q&A time with Trinity.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brandy, and thank you, Trinity. Hello, Our Revolution. My name is Ben Houck. I'm a Southern California Vice Chair for the California Democratic Party Progressive Caucus, and also a proud organizer with Our Revolution Long Beach. Trinity, I have a couple questions that rolled through during your presentation. So first off, how many states currently allow public banks?
Well, there is only one state with a public bank, and that's the Bank of North Dakota. It was founded over 100 years ago in 1919, and it is an incredible example of it's successful model to emulate. It is more successful. It returns about 18% ROI. So it is more profitable than Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan Chase, even though it's not mandated to actually turn a profit, but to serve the community. And during the COVID-19 pandemic, it distributed more PPP loans than any other state in the country, because without the fees and the charges that bankers typically charge, it was able to actually address the needs of the community. So it's a great model to emulate, and what we're doing with the California Public Banking Alliance is improving on it. So we're explicitly trying to design banks that are socially and environmentally responsible.
Excellent. Thank you, Trinity. We'll have one more quick question for you. And then if you can stick around and answer some questions, it looks like there's a lot of people in chat who want to learn more about public banking. Next quick question, will undocumented folks be able to use the public banking option?
That is the absolute goal of this bill, is to figure out a way for undocumented folks to access the system, because part of the reason why this legislation was written, because to address the real needs of folks who have been shut out of the system. The 1 out of 4 people in California, nearly half of Black and brown folks who are right now shut out of the system because they either don't have enough funds or don't have the necessary IDs to be able to open up a bank account. So that is a goal of the legislation, is to fill a void that is not currently being met by private financial systems.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Trinity. And now let's kick it back to Brandon.
All right, Ben, thank you so much. And with the victory of Philly DA Larry Krasner, a landslide victory, as we mentioned early, we've beaten back the opposition and backlash from law enforcement groups to much needed systemic reforms. And San Francisco attorney Chesa Boudin knows about the challenges facing reform-minded prosecutors. Chesa was an Our Revolution endorsed candidate who ran a very successful underdog campaign on a platform of criminal justice reform. He ran an amazing campaign that Brandon and I were so proud to be a part of. And since he's taken office, he's been working to fulfill his mandate of reforming our broken system. Chesa, it is so great to have you here. Welcome to our call.
Thank you so much, Brandy, and thank you all for being here, for making a little space for me to share the work we're doing and the challenges that still lie ahead. Really want to express my appreciation for the amazing support we received on the campaign trail in 2019 from Our Revolution, and of course from Senator Bernie Sanders, and from so many other local organizations here on the ground in San Francisco that made our people-powered campaign successful, even in the face of hundreds of thousands of dollars of attacks from the police unions and from the political establishment here in San Francisco. You know, when I proudly received the Our Revolution and the SF Berniecrats endorsement back in 2019, it wasn't just because I had spent my career fighting to end mass incarceration as a public defender. It wasn't just because I'd grown up visiting my own parents behind bars, and I understood personally the impact of mass incarceration on families and communities. It was because of 3 core platform pillars. First, reducing reliance on incarceration and not using jails and prisons as a primary response to all of our social problems of inequity and addiction and mental illness. Second, a commitment to reinvest money saved by downsizing our punishment bureaucracy in victim services and actually helping people who've been harmed by crime instead of using them as pieces of evidence to secure draconian punishment. And third, and critically, enforcing the laws equally. That means not only prosecuting poor Black and brown people, but also prosecuting police when they commit crimes. Also enforcing laws against corporations who systematically steal from their employees. And since I've taken office, we've made tremendous strides to follow through on those 3 core commitments. Let me just give you a couple quick examples that will make very clear why I am now facing not 1, but 2 separate recall attempts, both actively gathering signatures to try and force a special election to undo the hard work that so many of us, so many of you did on the streets in San Francisco, the will of the people of San Francisco that won my election in 2019. First of all, when it comes to ending mass incarceration, we have reduced the number of juveniles in our juvenile hall detention facility by over 75% since I took office. We've reduced the number of people in our county jail here in San Francisco by over 35% since I took office. And we've reduced the number of people in state prison from San Francisco County by over 25%, including, critically, ending San Francisco's use of the death penalty. I resentenced the very last person on death row out of San Francisco County. We got him off death row, effectively ending San Francisco's use of the death penalty. And when it comes to victim services, we've been focusing on expanding language access, hiring multiple new Chinese language victim advocates, and providing the kinds of emergency services that domestic violence victims need: safe housing and shelter, emergency transportation, providing the actual needs that victims and survivors of crime have instead of simply punishing those who've harmed them. And when it comes to equal enforcement of the law, I am proud to say that we filed 4 separate cases against law enforcement for excessive use of force, including the first ever homicide charges against San Francisco Police Department officer who shot and killed an unarmed Black man while he was on duty. In addition, we're making history supporting workers' rights. I started a workers' rights unit. We call it the Economic Crimes Against Workers team. And they filed a groundbreaking lawsuit against gig economy companies like Handy and DoorDash, alleging that those companies are systematically misclassifying their employees, calling them independent contractors in order to avoid paying minimum wage and unemployment insurance, in order to avoid providing the kind of basic workplace protections, even during the pandemic, that our frontline workers so desperately need to be safe. In other words, we are doing the work to follow through on the precise commitments that I made to all of you to earn your endorsement in 2019. And it is making the Republicans and the police union angry. And they are using fear and exploiting tragedies to try and roll back criminal justice reform, to try and undo the policy changes we've made to promote racial justice. In order to keep doing this work, in order to even finish the term in office that you helped me win, I need your help again. I need your help to fight back against these recall efforts. They are deeply pocketed supporters, Republican donors, mega donors who supported folks like Senator Perdue in Georgia and who've gone to fundraisers for Donald Trump. These are the folks donating to both recall committees. And so I'm asking you tonight for 2 things. First of all, if you can, please contribute. We are a people-powered campaign. I'm putting the link in the chat for those who can see it. This is, our average donations are small, just like Tio Bernie. Every little bit helps us push back against the lies and the fear-mongering. And second of all, if you're local or if you want to get involved in our social media campaigns, please email. And I'm going to put the email in the chat as well. Please email and indicate what you're able to do if you're local, or if you can get involved online. Volunteer at standwithchesa.com. That's volunteer at standwithchesa.com. And our website is standwithchesa.com. Please get involved. We need your help so we can stay focused on doing the work. There is so much urgent need for systemic reform in our criminal justice system. We've got to put the justice back in the system. And the police unions don't want us to do it. So I'm so appreciative of your support. I'm happy to take questions. And thank you for the work you all are doing across California and across the country.
All right. Thank you so much. A quick question or 2 for Chesa? Does anyone have a question?
I see one question in the chat. I'll answer. It says, how do the crime statistics compare between before you are taking office and after? The answer is that crime has fallen overall by double digits since I took office. In other words, crime is down by about 20% in 2020, my first year, compared to 2019. And this year so far, crime is down by another 10% compared to last year. Now, it depends which category of crime you look at. For example, year to date, rape down 30%, robbery down 14%. Other categories of crime like larceny, auto burglaries, and shoplifting down 20%. There are some that have gone up, and we know that we've got work to do to try and continue to drive all categories of crime down. We have to remember we're dealing with very, very difficult circumstances. Unemployment has doubled since I took office because of the COVID pandemic. There are people who are truly desperate. Homeless shelters have shut down. There's nowhere for folks to go to get help. And so as we reopen as a city, I know we're going to feel safer and we're going to be safer than ever.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so we've got a lot of, I have been a part of this amazing campaign, the Stand with Chesa campaign, and I highly recommend that other folks get involved. All right, so thank you so much, Chesa. It was really great to see you here. And let's see now, I am going to kick it on over to, sorry about this. Tim Cotran.
Thank you so much, Brandy. Before we start talking about the June elections, everyone on this call and watching live, please become a card-carrying member of Our Revolution. You can become a sustaining member for as little as $5 or more a month. If you can sign up on the link in the chat, or if you're calling in on your phones, press *3 and an operator will take your information. And the link in the chat's good, but just in case, if you're listening, the link to sign up is rrev.us/2021member. Again, that's rrev.us/2021member. Thank you very much. Sign up. And now I'd like to pass the mic to an awesome activist and organizer. She's a leader in her community and heading up a truly progressive campaign. She's the chair of Inland Empire Democratic Socialists of America. I'll introduce Annabelle Nevares from IEDSA.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Timothy and Our Revolution, for having us on this call, and all the other great speakers that are truly an inspiration to a lot of the work that, not only the volunteers here do, but also the reasons why, we get behind people like Aram, Ayra, who I'll introduce shortly. So as Tim said, I am the co-chair of Inland Empire DSA, along with my fellow co-chair, Matt Milholland. As the chapter, we have continued to push for memberships this last year during the pandemic. And, gratefully, we've been one of the fastest growing chapters in the country. So now we're focusing on continuing to build the infrastructure out here in the Inland Empire with working groups, and also to begin engaging a lot of this new membership to work toward local and statewide campaigns. I'm happy to say that our chapter has been really trying to nurture and build a lot of relationships with our local ally organizations. Sometimes there can be less active volunteering base out here in the IE than there is out either in the OC or LA. So we've been, working to build coalitions with to push for things like housing advocacy, environmental justice, and police reform here in San Bernardino and Riverside County, including out in the Coachella Valley, which in itself has grown enough to begin organizing more locally. Also, more recently, we've been working with other DSA chapters across the state in support of AB 1400 CalCare. So I heard that mentioned earlier, and together with other chapters, we've been holding countless door knocking events, both in Northern and Southern California. And we've also been sending our members to these walks, and we've also held phone banks where we've been calling our elected constituents in order for them to contact their assembly member to support CalCare, so we can have Medicare for all here in the state and really apply the pressure for Governor Gavin Newsom. Now, as a chapter, what we've really been doing is focusing on our currently endorsed candidate, Aram Ayra, for Riverside City Council here in Ward 2. One of the things that's special about this campaign is that it is an off season, so it'll be the last time we have an opportunity to, volunteer and send our folks out to an election that's going to be not competing with any other election. So we've really been trying to invest a lot of time into here. A little bit more about Aram Ayra. He's currently running here in Riverside City Council. Again, he's not taking any special interest money, any money from developers, or any warehouse money. Unlike a lot of, we've got some other candidates in the race that are affiliated to real estate and warehouses. So that's why this race is so important here in the Inland Empire. For anybody that knows, we've been having a lot of warehouse development that's happening in the last years. So that's really what we've been pushing against, especially from, warehouses like Amazon. So Aram, he moved here in Riverside to attend college, graduated from UCR, and since then he's served as a health educator in a COVID response task force for the county, and currently sits as the Human Relations City Commissioner for Ward 2. During the pandemic, Aram moved into action, and he actually began the Riverside Mutual Aid Network, which is a little bit more about how I met him and got to donate to that. And he advocated for mobile meals for veterans and the Little Free Pantry. So we already have over a dozen Riverside Little Free Pantries all throughout the city. So again, Aram wants to build on this work that he's been pushing to make sure that Riverside communities can win from within. And he's, again, the only candidate that has publicly rejected corporate PAC, warehouse, and developer dollars. And he's also been endorsed by other local progressive organizations, including Engage IE, of course, our local chapter of Inland Empire DSA. And we're happy to say to now have the endorsement of Our Revolution California. So without further ado, Aram, Ayra.
Thank you, Annabelle. That was an amazing intro. And thanks so much for having me here tonight. My name is Aram Ayra. I'm running for Riverside City Council in the upcoming June 8th election. And just a little background about myself. Graduate of UC Riverside. I'm a health educator. Worked throughout the pandemic for Riverside County's Department of Public Health, connecting families to health resources, specifically in communities that have been impacted the hardest, like our farm workers, healthcare workers, essential frontline folks who are facing or had to face going into work throughout the pandemic on a daily basis. I serve as a city commissioner on the Human Relations Commission, and I've founded and I'm the current director of the Riverside Mutual Aid Network, which has been pushing a mutual aid response and really rethinking how we assist our neighbors and our friends during times of crisis and pushing more of a solidarity model rather than charity. My background with Our Revolution back in 2015, I actually myself and my friend Taylor Balmores, we founded the first college Bernie Sanders Club in the Inland Empire, Highlanders for Sanders at UC Riverside. It was an incredible experience, and we actually got to travel to 3 different states campaigning for Bernie in Nevada, Arizona, doing the Bernie bus and getting folks registered to vote in areas that often had high concentrations of Republicans and independents that felt left out of the political process, and even Democrats that felt left out of the political process and that their needs were not being met. That's how I got kind of involved in the first place. Was very active during the 2016 campaign. Was also super active during the, briefly during the 2020 campaign before the pandemic really became more of an issue. Since then, I've been joined DSA as sort of a natural progression of continuing some of the same pushes for policy and real action here in the Inland Empire. For those that don't know, the Inland Empire for a long time was very conservative. Only recently have we started becoming more purple and elected some moderately liberal and sort of more moderate Democrats in our area. But there's still a lot of work for us to do. And that's why I'm running for city council, to really bring accountability, action, and agency back to city council, because for a really long time, we've accepted, sort of a lackluster leadership and lack of vision for the city. And as a result, there's a lot of things that have not been addressed and a lot of major issues that have not been fixed. For me, I've always valued policy over performance and, substance really over status quo. So some of my major concerns in running for office are police reform. Police reform is obviously a crucial issue that's going on nationwide, but especially in the city of Riverside, it's a very touchy subject. Like I mentioned, we're still pretty purple, and we have almost a cult-like worship of our local police departments in the area. I'm actually the only candidate in this election that has signed on to the No Cop Money Pledge. pledging to not take any money from law enforcement associations or police unions as I run for office, which put me into major conflict with Sheriff Chad Bianco, a dangerous man, to say the least, with ambitions for running for higher office in California, and a great dislike for any accountability for police officers or any real stringent measures. So that's a big deal for me, as well as also implementing some of the major reforms that our Citizens Police Review Task Force has been pushing so hard for, and has been ignored by our council because a lot of them have accepted money from police associations and refuse to take action. Another big one for me as well is warehousing. So for those of you that don't know, the Inland Empire has about 40% or sees 40% of the goods movement in the entire United States. And most of that comes through Riverside or San Bernardino. And as a result, Amazon and large distribution and logistics centers run the show. Now I'm running against a Republican that has been backed by major warehouse developer money. We're talking $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 coming in from Costa Mesa, from Orange, from cities outside of Riverside, because for a long time, Riverside has been an afterthought for Los Angeles or Orange County, an opportunity to do business and not worry about any of the detrimental environmental effects. So I'm also pushing for a warehouse moratorium in my ward where I'm running, and generally moving us away from a warehouse-based economy, moving into more green tech sectors. Luckily, we've been fortunate enough to receive the new California Air Resources Board facility in our ward, Ward 2, which I really hope to maximize the usage of and get UC Riverside students connected with everything from environmental research to emissions testing and so on and so forth, and hopefully building green tech clusters around the CARB facility itself. And one of the other major issues that's a primary concern for me is our local public health infrastructure. So like I said, I come from a public health background, and unfortunately, Riverside was very hard hit. The county itself was very hard hit by the pandemic. And we faced a lot of impacts, especially to our most vulnerable communities. So the city of Riverside unfortunately lost nearly 800 of its neighbors and friends and family members to the pandemic. In addition to that, our county has been slower than others in vaccination rates. I believe we're still under 40% totally vaccinated. So this is a big deal. And unfortunately, it's because our public health infrastructure is focused on a county level. So the city of Riverside, for those that don't know, is almost 350,000 people now. So it's, I think, the 12th biggest city in California, but we're still being serviced by a county public health infrastructure that is spread across 2.3 million residents. So that's larger than the size of some states. So I'm pushing for more local public health infrastructure, especially with targeted outreach to our vulnerable communities on issues like asthma, on reducing environmental pollution, on really bringing healthy eating and nutritional access to clean food in the communities. We have large food deserts in Ward 2. So that's a big focus for me. And eventually the hope is that we actually build our own local public health department that would be a lot more focused, involved, and could do a lot more targeted programs to improve the overall public health of individuals in our area. So yeah, and then I'll just wrap up with, I guess, because I want to leave some time for questions. I'm the only candidate in this election that's running 100% grassroots funded. And we're running against not only establishment Democrats that have received a lot of funding from both the Democratic Party and also from, special interests in the area, but we're running against a Blue Lives Matter warehouse development at all costs Republican that is hoping to take charge of Ward 2. And also, unfortunately, his approach to everything is just more enforcement and more policing, which I think doesn't really solve much of the issues. It just pushes them around. So that's a sort of an overview of what I stand for. If elected, I would be the youngest city council member to ever serve on Riverside City Council. And I think I would bring a unique voice and perspective to a council that's been, for the last 20 years, dominated by folks over the age of 60. In addition to that, I would be really the first grassroots funded candidate in at least a few decades, truly grassroots funded, to sit on the council. And I want to make Riverside a city that works for the people, not special interests. And that's what Bernie Sanders taught me, Theo Bernie, as someone else referred to here. So I'm grateful to have our revolution's backing, and really thankful to have the opportunity to present to so many amazing folks who are on this call and present alongside so many amazing individuals. So I would love to take some questions. Yeah, and no disrespect to folks over 60. I know someone mentioned that. It's just oftentimes they're, at least for our city, I can speak for our city, they're a little bit disengaged from the needs of recent graduates and young professionals and working families in the area, unfortunately. And they hold very different views on a lot of the issues that affect the great majority of our city. But I have love for my older folks, and always happy to work alongside them as well. Happy to take any questions. I don't know how to go about that. Can we?
Yeah, looks like we have one question in the chat. Alcohol is legal and taxed. Legal means it is controlled by someone or agency. Decriminalizing means it is not controlled by anyone necessarily or taxed. Well, that's not even a question. Sorry. Forgive me. What intersections do you have with regenerative, sustainable agriculture?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the Mutual Aid Network, one of the first things we did was partner with a community farm called Overflow Farms. If you live in the area, check them out. Really, it's a completely volunteer-run farm, which provides opportunities to get families who are traditionally removed from fresh food or access to fresh food involved with the program. So one of the things that we've, that I've spoken to at length with this farm organization that has actually endorsed me as well for the campaign is starting a lawn to garden program within our city, which would provide subsidies through our public utilities, which is city owned actually in the city of Riverside. We're unique for that, to really bring fresh food into the community and get folks on a very ground level exposed to that. In addition, the Little Free Pantry program that I mentioned, we secured federal CARES Act funding to build a free community pantry in each of Riverside's 26 neighborhoods. So the cool thing about that is we can get some of the fresh food directly to areas that need it the most, and consistently have access to fresh food for folks in the area. Long term, that's why I'm a big supporter of community land trusts, because I feel like they could be a good vehicle to bring more local agriculture into our communities. Riverside was founded as a citrus experiment station and was the capital of the citrus industry in California. So I really want us to make sure we stay close to our roots and actually double down and increase access to fresh food for folks in our community. Let me quickly answer some of the other questions here as well. What's our strategy for getting independents and left-leaning Republicans? That one has been really successful with us focusing on the fact that we're actually not funded by establishment Democrats and their allies a lot of the times, because the decision-making ends up being, whoever paid you the most money gets to pull the strings. So for us, that's been a good one for us in terms of being able to get some of these folks to cast their vote for us. In addition to that, approaching fiscal responsibility in a way that prioritizes our employees and services, but also cuts away some of the bloated expenses that we pay, for instance, for a lot of the paid consultants that work for the city of Riverside. We drop hundreds of thousands of years on that, $100,000 a year on that. In addition, something that a lot of folks resonate with overwhelmingly in the city of Riverside, we're one of the only Inland Empire cities that has not legalized the retail sale of cannabis. And as a result, we miss out on a lot of revenue. So instead of constantly increasing local taxes as the only option and not focusing on bringing in any outside revenue or focusing only on warehouse revenue, one of our pitches has been to actually legalize the retail sale of cannabis and bring in millions of dollars in untapped revenue that could go towards different services and programs within our city and help balance the budget, which really has resonated well as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And yeah, I'm so sorry, but we have one more guest and we're running a little bit out of time. So we have to get to that. Aram, thank you so much for your time tonight. And It was awesome being able to knock on doors over in Riverside with you. That was a great experience, and it was a pleasure to volunteer for your campaign. And thank you so much. Do you have any final words?
Thanks for having me. No, thanks so much for having me, and appreciate all the support and love on here. Thanks, folks.
Awesome, and thank you so much. And one more time tonight, if you're not yet a card-carrying member of our revolution, we're asking you to consider becoming one tonight. You can become a sustaining member for as little as $5 more a month. You can sign up at the link in the chat. And now I want to go back to the Bay Area and introduce our Revolution East Bay organizer, Jake Varghese. Jake, what's going on tonight?
Hey everyone, thanks Tim. I'm Jake Varghese, board member of our Revolution East Bay, which now covers Alameda County and Contra Costa County. So those of you on the call in those areas looking for a local chapter, come by. And I'm going to introduce our last guest tonight. She has been endorsed by our Revolution East Bay and now our Revolution California, and we got a must-win election in Oakland Metro this month. I want to introduce Janani Ramachandran, candidate for California General Assembly D18 or District 18. Janani, tell us about this election and why we should all come to Oakland for the house party tomorrow night.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Janani Ramachandran. I'm a social justice attorney, a community activist, and running to be California's next state assembly member. And like many of you on this call, I am sick and tired of corporate Democrats failing on their promises. If housing is a human right, why are there 3 million Californians who face eviction later this month because they can't pay rent? If clean air is a human right, why are we having national conversations about a Green New Deal, but can't get one implemented in our own state? Hint, because 70% of our lawmakers take money from oil and gas corporations, and over 90% take from PG&E. If California Democrats claim that healthcare is a human right, why are our leaders, many of whom, including our governor, campaign on single payer because it's widely popular among 70% of Californians? Why do they campaign on these things and make these promises yet fail to deliver time and time and again? If Californians Democrats claim that we need to build affordable housing and infrastructure and better fund public education and public colleges, then they need to implement a wealth tax on folks who have over $50 million in assets and raise corporate taxes. And finally, if California Democrats and our government claims to care about income inequality, then we would be doing something about the fact that we are the 5th largest economy in the world, yet have the highest rate of real poverty in this country. And I'm running for state assembly in the special election happening this month on June 29th. Mail-in ballots have already gone out. And I'm running because I am uncompromising on my values like all of these fantastic leaders on this call. I am uncompromising on my corporate-free policies. And I'm running because I am going to be a fighter for true progressive change in this movement alongside all of you. In California, our struggle is not just Republican versus Democrats. It's Democrats that are backed by corporations and those of us that are backed by people. And I'm running for assembly because I am fighting for a $22 minimum wage. 15 does not cut it. I am fighting for Medicare for all with comprehensive mental health services. I'm fighting for a Green New Deal with a racial equity lens. I'm fighting to repeal Costa-Hawkins and the Ellis Act and build more affordable housing. I'm fighting to end qualified immunity for cops who cause harm because 1,127 people were killed last year by police, and every single one of their families deserve justice. And I'm driven to run for this seat because the voices of community members that I have worked with in my career as an attorney and my career as a community health worker, the voices of these people have been drowned out by our inequitable and racist systems. Tenants who have faced eviction even in the middle of this pandemic. Folks in mental health crises who have been failed repeatedly again and again by our public health system. Victims of abuse and trauma who have been re-traumatized and criminalized by our so-called justice system. Families being ripped apart by CPS and ICE, even right here in California. I also believe that representation matters. I would be our very first South Asian assemblywoman. I would be our very first LGBTQ API assemblywoman. And I would be just 1 out of 3 tenants out of a state legislature with 120 lawmakers. So when we organize, we know we win. There are 25 days left until my special election, and I am honored to be endorsed by our revolution to fight to win this. I am fighting against the establishment. I'm fighting against people who have 4 or 5 times as much funding than I do because they accept corporate contributions. And I am grateful for every organization, every individual who took a risk and supported and uplifted a troublemaker, including our very own Congressman Ro Khanna on this call today. So thank you so much for hearing me out. I would love your support in this movement so we can fight together for a more equitable California that works for all of us. I'm happy to answer some questions, and I believe my website's in the chat.
Great, thanks, Janani. Or Janani, sorry. Tim, were there any questions for Janani or?
I don't see any for Janani.
A lot of support.
Do you see any in there?
No, just a lot of support and people wanting to volunteer, so that's good.
That's good.
Oh, tell us about your house party. I saw that. We have so many upcoming events because we have an army of volunteers and tons of people excited, and we're trying to spread the word to the 270,000 registered voters in this county as soon as possible. We have phone banks every single day. We have weekend canvases and Thursday and Friday night canvases. I believe all of the links are in the chat. And we have a house party and a barbecue on Saturday afternoon in the Laurel District of Oakland. Please, please, please feel free to join us. We would love to see you. We'll be masked and socially distanced, but in person and fostering community.
Yep. Also, Our Revolution East Bay is having our general meeting on Sunday, and Janani will be there also to answer more questions and just talk to us in general about the campaign, how it's going. Here's a quick question. How will you push back against corporate money and PGE lobbyists? By the way, I can't believe taxpayers are helping to pay for their greed. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. Well, firstly, by not accepting corporate donations, we only had, I think, 3 legislators last year that didn't take their money. I mean, this is an investor-owned utility that has been held criminally liable for recklessly endangering people's lives, livelihoods, homes, etc. So the first way to fight back about it is by not taking their money. But the second thing is, I'm talking about some of these progressive policies that do need a movement to get passed through all of us here, through organizations and things like that. But this is also the beginning of a potential opportunity to elect a progressive majority within our supermajority of Democrats in California, because there are 34 open seats in our state legislature next year, and there are even more that are open in 2024. And these are mostly in blue districts in California. And many of these seats that are open, a significant number of these seats that are open are with lawmakers that have termed out. So, folks wouldn't be fighting against an incumbent if they chose to run for these seats. So the more that we elect folks who don't accept PG&E money, the more we can fight back against them and form coalitions across the board. Because investor-owned utilities need to be held accountable and ideally go away.
And one quick question from Mike. What will it take to win?
It will take all of you to win. Like I mentioned, I am never going to outraise my opponents in this race. I'm not accepting corporate contributions. I don't have the deep pockets that some of my opponents do, but I do have tons of volunteers. Every single day, we have people that are phone banking or canvassing. I am personally canvassing for a couple of hours, knocking on doors every single day, because that's how I know we can spread the word through a relational organizing campaign, through getting the word out through different communities. But we absolutely have a shot at this. Our revolution's backing was absolutely an incredible boost to this campaign. But since then, we've had tons of organizations that are willing to take the risk and endorse the progressive in this race. We have the support of Indivisible East Bay, Wellstone Democrats, Harvey Mills LGBTQ Democrats, Oakland East Bay Democrats, which is Oakland's oldest historically Black Democratic club. We have so many organizations that are on our side and believing in something that's not, and because that shows that people are ready for something other than the status quo politics. Because a lot of my opponents, the front runners in particular, the other front runners in particular, will say progressive policies on paper, but if you look at their records, if you look at their corporate donations and their background, it doesn't speak volumes for the progressive policies. And voters are starting to see that through and see that there is an alternative choice that's not perpetuating status quo politics for this district and for our state.
Cool. Another question, if you haven't already shared, what is your priority legislation that you'd be advocating for? I mean, oh yes, you did say $22 an hour, but if there's anything else.
Yeah, $22 an hour minimum wage, Medicare for all. AB 1400 was introduced, which was awesome, but it was unfortunately converted into a 2-year bill. And I would do everything because if and when I win this election, it would be by the end of this year, I would do everything necessary to make sure it stays on the table and gets passed next year. I would also work to implement, like I mentioned, a Green New Deal that creates tens of thousands of well-paying jobs in the green energy sector. We have a lot of infrastructure funding from Biden, specifically for wind energy and other efforts. We have $100 billion budget surplus, and it's time to use these to support both Medicare for all and a Green New Deal that creates jobs. I also believe in stronger statewide tenant protections and making sure that people can stay housed during the pandemic and beyond. It's not talked about a lot right now, but the statewide eviction moratorium ends the very day after my special election on June 30th. And unfortunately, a good chunk, almost 40% of Californian tenants who are behind on rent have not been able to take advantage of the rental relief fund because of the poor ways that it was written and administered to not benefit the people that need it the most. So those are definitely some of my top priorities.
Great. Looks like, yeah, there wasn't any other questions I could see here.
Yeah, let's kick it back. Let's finish up the call and let's move it back to Shawnee and Brandy.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to everybody. I think we did our final membership ask, but remember it's rrev.us/2021 member. And we'd love to have you become a card-carrying member of our revolution for as little as $5 a month. You'll get a personalized membership card in the mail and the gratification of supporting our movement. And it would be wonderful to have you with us. And with that, thank you so much, everyone. Brandy, do you want to close us out here? If not, I will do it.
Hey, Shawnee, I'll just close this out real quick because I want to invite everybody, and Shawnee, everybody to our Monday night call. So every Monday night as a national movement, we huddle up, have some fun together. 1 hour long call every Monday night. It's a little early in California, 5:30 in California, 8:30 on the East Coast. But we're having a powerhouse call Monday night. We're going to be joined by Nina Turner, Jim Hightower, the last Democrat elected statewide in Texas, who is a progressive populist. We're joined by my Congressman, Andre Carson, progressive caucus member, and a lot of local organizers, and also Jabari Bridgeport, a leading progressive senator in New York. So join us every Monday night. And thanks again, everybody. And thank you, Shawnee and Brandy, for tonight's amazing call. And Shawnee and Brandy and our team, when we end our calls, we chant it out. We give it a little chant as we wrap up our call together. And I love hearing this phrase. Our leaders and our members are kind of adapted it. And so what happens when we organize, Shawnee and Brandon? And
we win.
We win. When we organize,
we win.
We organize,
we win.
Awesome, everybody. Let's again, Thursday nights, we huddle up as a committee and do some planning and organizing. So we'll be reaching out to you if you want to join a local group, join our state committee, but let's keep